Bienvenidos and welcome a Cositas Mami Never Told Me, a podcast that dives deep into the Latin cultural norms that have long haunted the feminine genre. Móntate and buckle up porque it's going to be a roller coaster ride. ¡Nos fuimos!
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Everybody. Oh. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. But it's kind of like become my signature. Hi, Diana. Okay, sorry, go. Hi, Becky.
Everybody, this is Rebecca Betancourt. Becky with the gray hair. I'm gonna call her Beck Nice. I don't care what she say. Beck Nice. How you doing, honey?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
She is the owner of Meaningful Journeys LLC. It is a private practice. She is a therapist, correct? And I told her I went on a deep dive. So her practice is a therapeutic service for people that want to overcome life's transitions, to find their purpose in life, or deepen their spiritual faith walk. Services offered include family, relationships, and marriages, because some relationships are situationships. I'm just saying.
Hi, Diana. We literally are a minute and 20 seconds into the cast. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is how Diana is feeling this morning. So I will say, I'm gonna have a beware que viene sexy today.
Individual counseling. I'm just feeling very excited, very happy to have Becky here with us. But also the Yankees won last night. They're going to the that's why I'm wearing the Yankees.
The Yankees. Yo, speaking of the Yankees, did you see that reggaeton song that they came out with for the, what's his name, Soto?
No,
I'm gonna send it. Is his name Soto? Soto? Where they do this dance where they're like this or something?
Oh no!
Yes, it's like I think it's called. I don't know if it's like it's so cool. It's like you'll see it. I'll send it to you. I gotta find it. You open your legs wide and you like groove like this, but they filmed it. It's on MLB. I know you open your legs wide. Stop.
How wide we opening the legs?
As wide as they have to be open. You get what I'm saying?
Because like.
Isn't it? No, Becky knows. She knows. But I mean, 2 seconds for the leg opening. Isn't it funny how in certain situations you'd be like, "Yo, I didn't even know I could do that." But anyway,
listen, what?
It's like we become gymnasts.
Gymnasts, acrobats, monkey, whatever you channeling.
Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah.
Contortionists, magicians. Sorry. So anyway, yes, los Yankees.
Yeah.
We're so sorry, Becky.
Always.
No worries.
She knows the deal.
Yeah.
So how you doing, sweetie? Okay.
We're here to talk serious business, people. I swear.
Yes, serious business.
Therapy. If you don't have humor for therapy, and I use humor a lot. Therapy is so intense that if you don't have humor, this is going to be a long journey. And my mouth sometimes is just like, and I'm saying, I am not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm okay. I've been fired numerous times as a therapist. Listen, it's okay. I'm like, it's okay. Not everybody's cup of tea.
Becky, I don't want to interrupt you, but we've known each other for years. And I had a concussion 13 years ago, and Diana can verify this.
Yeah.
Because I went to her house the next day. I went to her house the next day, and she was like, does she know she said that 3 times?
It wasn't the next day. It was the same day.
That day after the ER. My bad.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? I don't even know the sequence of events.
Wait, she's coming over?
Listen,
But
a big deal.
Yeah.
I want to say something before we get into it, just so that we can set the tone for character. And Becky has been the same person since I met her. Like, and I think we met middle school, I want to say.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my God, girl. So the concussion, you got to remind me. And then I'll be like, because I'm like, of course I know Becky. And then I'm like, I don't know how. And Diana knows. Sometimes I got to be like, D, how do we know this person?
But should be working for you too. That shit.
Because she sees the light happen when she's like, I'm like, oh shit, yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. But before, I'm literally like, I'm blank. I'm blank. So D is like bitch, we know her from this. I'm like, I do want to say, because the word therapy scares people, and I'm gonna touch upon this text that I got this morning, ironically, but I think it's so important to have some sort of like stamp of approval. It's like good housekeeping. It's like when you see something that says, well, back in the day you said good housekeeping or Better Business Bureau, you're like, okay, like I can kind of trust this situation. Mm-hmm. But when I tell you, we had Noel on last season and he was, amazing. And Becky, having followed the show and been someone that has just been in the space for such a long time, we were like, we have to have her on. And she has been the same person since I could remember, which for me is, and for D too, I could say this, it's like, it provides so much validity because it's like, yeah, we grow, but our core is the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much for those kind words. I think consistency is one of the things that strengthens relationships, right? When you are consistent, you start strengthening and you move up, right? Sophia, I think I'm gonna boot you up to the friendship level, right? Okay, now you're a friend. Okay, consistency, loyalty. Okay. You still haven't gotten the bestie title, but you're close, right? You keep moving people up as you build those relationships. And thank you for sharing those kind words. Yeah, we go way back.
I think that the importance of therapy now, it's more accepted. I think after COVID, it's almost cool. Like I've seen so many teenagers with T-shirts that say "seek therapy," or these hoodies that have like these things that say, you are not alone. I'm a depressed person too. Or I have a sweater that I had my girlfriend Deanna. Shout out to Deanna, I love you, girl. That says, "I'm probably feeling anxious right now. Disregard my face." You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like, sometimes my face, I'm somewhere else. Like, oh my God, did I leave the stove on? Oh my God. Like, always having like these crazy thoughts in my head, because getting older, the anxiety gets worse, right? Thank goodness for Lola. Mira, el earpiece dice, no quiero.
I got the other one. We good.
No, está bien. So, it's almost cool now. I've heard men say, "Oh yeah, I'm thinking about going to therapy." I'm like, excuse, So, and then you see the work. You see the work in the people. You know what I'm saying? People opening up, or relationships getting stronger, or doing things that are out of the norm. Whether it's women or men. So, I wanted to touch upon a few of your taglines before we get deep, because I know you always got gems. Wherever you are, whatever you're speaking, whether or not you're in the audience, if you're like at a table, people are always over there clamoring to get your attention. I see it all the time. Wherever we cross paths, people are like, and I'm like, look at Becky, just ran in love, boy. For free, too. I'd be like, girl, you need to be like, I'll be charging.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
So, the most recent one that, so I'm gonna say a few that I've seen, and then we can go from there. I love the stand in your power.
Mhm.
That is dope. I've seen you say stuff like tough conversations form the foundation for growth. Share some of your affirmation practices. I want you to do that later. This one's from 2022. I'd rather honor my calling now than live in regret later.
Yes.
Whatever season you are in, honor the season because it will pass.
Yeah, well.
Honesty without compassion is cruelty. Girl, I was like, I was in 2021, 2020. I was like, yo, like you are providing like all these tools and resources on your Facebook page. People, go on her Facebook page for free. Like you're doing these lives for free. You're giving out tools to like I said about, the affirmation practices. You're sitting there telling people what it is that they can do. So please share, like, because when I was looking at some of your videos and you love this. You could tell, like, in your eyes, like, I'm a big person, like, I see in them eyes, I'm like, so when people got shades, I be like, take your shades off. Tell that you love this. So, just dive in and then we'll talk and ask questions and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for doing your research because you literally validated what I've been doing for so long. Right? So, I literally just shared a post this morning and I said, keep doing what you're doing. There's people talking about you. There's people looking to know about you. And they're not ready for what you're bringing. Right? Like, so quick backstory. I have to definitely give you a little bit of a backstory because people need to know where this definitely came from. So, in the Latino community, right, we don't speak about therapy, right? Lo que pasa en esta casa, me queda en esta casa, tú no tienes que hablar con nadie, amiguitas, eso no son amiguitas, right? So, a lot of our norms and a lot of our beliefs stem from how we grow up. And then, we're kind of from the same era, 70s, right? Some, 80s. I'm 70s, so I'm going to stick to 70s. I think we're all 70s, right? The culture back then, we were surviving, right? And our parents, not only were they surviving, they were taking care of us. So a lot of our fears, a lot of our strength, a lot of our power, everything shows up from what our parents did, right? And so people don't know enough about these transgenerational behaviors. These behaviors that get transferred from generation to generation. And part of the reason why I went into therapy is because I'm curious. I tell everybody, be curious. Because when you become curious, you get information. And when you get that information, you do something about it. And so apparently, I've been curious all my life. Elementary school all the way. Pero ¿por qué tú dijiste esto? ¿Y por qué tú dijiste esto? Right? And so I feel that all of the relationships that I've had have literally built who Rebecca is, who Becky is, right? So growing up north in Hartford, right? North in Hartford, it wasn't an easy place to live in, just like the South End, right? Just like anywhere else, right? Like you are put in a situation, and what you do with that situation depends on your actions. And so I always remind people the ABCs, right? The affect. What am I feeling? The behavior that results out of that feelings, right? And the C is the consequences. And those consequences could be good or they could be unpleasant, right? I have shied away from using the word bad because I heard it for so long. Don't be bad. Don't be a bad kid. Don't be a bad, right? And I'm like, no, unpleasant. So I always remind everyone when you're making your choice, think about the consequence. Is it going to be a good consequence or is it going to be an unpleasant consequence? So we don't like dealing with the unpleasant. When we feel uncomfortable, we be like, I don't want to talk about it. Avoidance. You're avoiding it, right? I'm not ready to have this conversation right now. Okay, I respect that. You're still avoiding it, right? I have this thing where I like to call people out. And that works for some people and that doesn't work for so many people. So, again, going back to our culture, being a Latina, calladita, te ves más bonita. Kids are meant to be seen, not heard. We never spoke about our feelings. Si tú lloras, mira, vas a estar llorando. Límpiate and keep it moving. So many of us are walking around with our feelings bottled in, or probably we don't even know what the heck we're feeling. We only know the basic feelings. Happy, angry, sad, excited, surprised. I was like, you know that there's more feelings in there. There's a shame. There's grief. There is exhilarating. And y'all don't know about this because nobody really made it okay for you to feel what you feel. And let's talk about it. So, more than a decade ago, I said, I am going to become a therapist. And I went to school. I busted my ass. I busted my ass because in our program, it's so experiential that they make us sit with our feelings. So your girl had to sit with her feelings. You saw me, Mommy, papi, I want to talk to you. I got some feelings to talk about. Woo! Having a conversation with your mama and your daddy about
That's why we have a podcast.
Listen, that isn't for the weak, right? And to have that compassion to know what they went through, and then out of that compassion, they build empathy, right? Everything builds on each other, everything. And it's like, now I get why mommy acted this way. Now I get why papi acted this way. But developmentally, I'm ready for that conversation, and not too many people are. Developmentally. And that's one of the areas I specialize in. Where is Diana? Where is D developmentally? Right? Where is Rocio at developmentally? Is she ready to have that conversation? And if she's not ready to have that conversation, let's give you the tools that you need to get you to where you're supposed to be at before we process that. So there's so much more to dig into that. But you mentioned something else, and I do want to provide a space first, number one, for questions, because si tú me dejas, yo sigo hablando.
No, that I see it. I'm like that.
I'm like, we about to get free therapy session in at this hour. Let's go. I'm here for it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, grew up in the North End of Hartford, born in Puerto Rico, raised in Hartford, Connecticut. Speaking Spanish, porque yo era una de las jibaritas. Spanish was this thing where it was a burden, right? It was classes were in English when I started school. I started creating this negative thought about myself, this negative belief: I'm not good enough. I don't know how to speak English. Making friends was difficult because I had to have somebody translating for me, or I had to just find somebody that spoke my language. Right? So for so long, speaking Spanish in my head was a very confusing thing. Porque si tú me miras a mí, yo soy una afro-latina. You look at my features, people automatically don't say, what is that que viene por ahí? No. People see me and they assume, tú eres morena. Tú eres morena. Everything else except who I really was. So for so long, I carried this name of Becky. Becky, Becky, Becky. And because people never saw Becky as a Latina, I said, just call me Becca. Just call me Becca. Just call me Becca. Just call me Becca. Because I felt that I just couldn't connect with my culture. When I was at home, super bonita. La música, la comida, todo. El baile, la limpieza, you gotta clean the corner, right? No boys to come over. No, you can't have no boyfriends. No,
no sleepovers.
All the rules. No sleepovers. ¿Dónde tú te vas a quedar? ¿Y tienes right. No, para allá tú no vas, right? So there's
¿Tiene mano? ¿Tiene papá? ¿Tiene tío? You're like,
yo creo que sí.
I just want to sleep over.
But the funny thing about that is it's like tiene tío, period. It couldn't be tiene tío porque my concern is this and this and this and this. So you're like, it's like you're like, yo no puedo, pero at that age you're like, but I don't understand why. So then, God forbid, you find yourself in a situation where this person is convincing you or trying to touch you, which was the fear. You get what I'm saying? But it's like, en vez de educar and go further and say, tiene tío hermano porque ya tú eres señorita, los hombres son curiosos. So you're like, I just, every Latina I know, yo no dormía en casa de nadie. It's like, no. Sleepover was a no. And the funny thing is that in the white culture, sleepover is so normal from 5, 4, 6 years old. And for us, it's like, normal. No. It's like, no. So sorry to interrupt you, but it's like, but why? It's that whole like, no, tú no hablas. You know, you better see now tú hablas cuando la gallina me. And it's like, but why? If you just give a little information, obviously it depends on the age, but if you give a little more, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It makes sense. And it comes off as protection and not limitation, which then makes you curious and do things without knowing. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's all leading to like, well, now I'm curious. Like, why can't I? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But imagine the traumas. Remember imagine the traumas that people were thinking about before they were actually happening.
Or imagine the trauma that the mother or the grandmother went through, and she can't share. Yeah, she can't share. So she's like, it's just a no. It's a hard no. And it's like, yeah, you know, it's a tricky lands.
Yes, transgenerational anxiety, transgenerational trauma, transgenerational depression, right? And yes, as children, we're so curious that developmentally we're not there. We're not saying, oh, something must have happened to my mother or to my father that they are saying no. They're not there. We're not there. So we need stuff in our language, right? I have a kid in every developmental stage from 9 all the way to 24. And I am still educating them. You know, Deli, no, you know what? I haven't met this parent, so I don't feel safe sending you over there. However, once I get to meet the parent, once I know the kid that you're going to be there with, we could definitely revisit this topic. Right? And then before I go and revisit this topic, I remind Delilah, like, hey, girlfriend, what's good touch? What's bad touch? Right? And as children, right, developmentally, children start masturbating at 3 and 4 years old. They play with themselves, right? And we sometimes say, yeah, don't do that. I educate my kids. I was like, hey, Delilah, so these are your private parts. And when you touch them, they might feel good. But listen, there's a time and place for it. And right now, your body is only yours. Nobody gets to touch it. So she has a lot of education because developmentally, I'm in a place. I'm in a place right now where I could provide wisdom to my child. Pero 24 years ago with my son and 19 years ago with my daughter, I probably wasn't there. Probably was acting just like my mother. Nah, you can't say no way. No, I don't think so.
I actually was. I think I was ahead of the curve in that aspect because I didn't know so many things coming up, and as you know, the North End of Hartford was nothing. You know, you either had street smarts or cuidado. You know, so right. So I early on decided that my kids, I was not going to shelter them. You know, and I always tell people this. They always say like, "Oh my God, you have such amazing kids. What did you do?" And I was like, I didn't shelter them. I showed them what it was when a person did heroin. This is an example of a person that does heroin. And this is what their family looks like. And this is what they're going through. This is a person that sells drugs and these other consequences. Yeah, they're hemmed up on the building. No, that's not normal, but that's what happens. Oh, yeah, he got shot and killed and he's only 19. He was selling drugs. And this is a consequence. And a lot of people would say stuff like, well, why not? As soon as they start talking, they understand. I don't think we give our kids enough credit. If they could learn all this stuff and all these songs and Power Rangers, back in the day, there was Power Rangers for my kids. You know what I'm saying? And they learned all these fake life lessons on TV. Well, no, let me give you some real life lessons. This is what's popping off. And okay, you feeling real good in your body and okay, like you said. But I don't need you parading naked in front of nobody. That's not good, because guess what? There might be somebody that's not really good up here and might find you appealing as a little child. So therefore, you shouldn't do that. Are there people like that, Mom? Absolutely. Yes. Trust nobody. You know what I mean? And that registers. And it was never Tolin and Toto. No, you have a vagina. You have a penis. And that's your anus back there. And yes, those are private parts, but that's what they're called. And no one should be touching them unless it's a doctor, a nurse, and a doctor and a nurse in the same room. Because up to this age, I'm in the room. Exactly. You know, so you have to lay that out, because I didn't know that. Like, there were so many things. And as you know, because you listen to the podcast, I was bleeding on white sheets at 13 years old, thinking the mosquito net in Puerto Rico cut me up. Yeah. I didn't know I was getting
But you know what's funny, that Diana has mentioned that before, and I was with Sophie and we were in New York I never told Diana this, but we were in New York and we were going to an experiential thing, and we walked by and there was a homeless guy, and I said, Sophie was like, why is he there? I was like, that's his home. I said, it's cold and that's his home, and he's transient. Remember, we're using the word transient a lot or whatever. And I said, it means he's homeless, as in he doesn't have like a house like we're blessed to have, but that's his home. She's like, oh. And then we were, and it's just showing you how my daughter is a little advanced, but she was like 4 at the time. And then we went and we stopped at a light in LA, and there's a lot of homeless people everywhere, but there's this guy asking for money, but he was clearly on drugs. Like, he was like falling over. And she goes, Mommy, what's he doing? And I was like, cause me and her dad especially, he's very dadoso. He'll like give someone money, buy them food instead of giving them money or whatever. But this particular person, you could tell, was like on drugs. And I remember Diana's voice, and I was like, Sophie, he's on drugs. I said, that's why he's like falling over. That's why he's not just asking for money, but he is on drugs, Mommy. And that, unfortunately, is what happens if you use, what are drugs? I said, drugs are things that you don't need to put into your body. They're things that don't feed you. They're not like vegetables. They're not like healthy things you should be. So I kind of use that moment. But when I tell you, then we were here literally 2 weeks ago, and I don't know if you guys know, at West Farms, there's usually a guy right before you're getting on 84, or a person, and he was on drugs. It's again, right? She's seeing the difference. She goes, oh, Mommy, he must be on drugs. And I said, and I said to her, I was like, but I want you to understand, not everyone who is homeless is on drugs. I said, there's a difference, okay? Sometimes people are on drugs and you can tell. And I said, and you're too little to understand right now, but as you get older, you will see. I said, but you know what we say? We say no to drugs. We say no to things that do not feed us, that are not good for. Oh, okay. And she's 5. You know, I could have easily been like, oh, ignore them or whatever. Because she says to me, Mommy, why aren't you giving him money? You get what I'm saying? And because she's so used to us, like if it's a mother sometimes or whatever, I'll give $1 and I'll be like, you know what? From here to her to God, whatever happens with this money is up to them. But for me, with substance abuse, I'd be like, I'm not partaking in this. Like, this is not something that doesn't feel good to me to feel like I'm doing something that's going towards something that's making the situation worse. It's a bigger picture that $1 is not going to fix. You know what I'm saying? So she was like, why aren't you giving them money? And I was like, this person is on drugs, Mommy. That's going to make her like hyper alert too. You know what I'm saying? As she starts getting older and she's like, you know, on play dates, or maybe she's somewhere else where you're not there, and then maybe they're at a park. And then maybe she'll be like, oh, wait, we got to stay away from this person. You know what I'm saying? Where people become a little bit more, and then tell their friends, like, that person's on drugs, so let's make sure, you know, they're head on a swivel. And it's so funny because yesterday I was talking to my daughter, and her roommate goes, oh my gosh, I was at a crossing, and this man was like this close to me, and I could tell. Sis.
Yes. And I could tell he was on drugs. And my daughter went,
too close, sis.
We were on FaceTime. And my daughter was like, what? She was like, you didn't notice him like 10:50. She was like, I did, but I didn't know what to do. And I was like, he's at that point, it's too late. He could put his arms around you, he could hit you, he could, you know what I'm saying? And I know we're going sideways, but if she would have known that from small, but that's the thing, you know, like she comes from Glastonbury, and not to say that people from Glastonbury don't know what's going on. That's not what I'm saying. She's affluent. She comes from an affluent background. So she's just like, I don't know. And I was like, well, honey, I gave you mace. So if somebody comes that close again, she was like, do I use my mace? I was like, well, it depends. Were you scared? And she said, yes. And I was like, and you just stood there. So
you run, you scream, you cross the street. You don't, because you know exactly. Because you know what? In that second, you're like, if I cross the street, he's gonna think something. Who cares? Cross the street.
You don't know him. You don't.
That's what I'm saying. But anyway,
that's actually a perfect example of how we learn, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm committed to lifelong learning. Right now, I'm pursuing a terminal degree. I'm doing my PhD.
Yes.
In education and supervision, right? Like, yeah. I'm trying to
doctor. We got to be doctor, okay? And then the price will not be the same price.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Yes, definitely, right? And so I'm committed to learning, I'm committed to teaching, and I am committed to advocacy, right? Advocacy. And I want to use both of y'all experience so that other people understand the purpose of, number one, transgenerational, right? And so your friend was never exposed to those type of environments, right? So when she had this person this close, right, her trauma response kicked in, right? Her trauma response kicked in, and that logical side, she could not tap into that at all. She was just responding off of that fear, that do I run, right? And that's a reflection of what so many of us go through. You know, you're functioning just off your right side, and it's so important to activate that left side that we activate by Rocio's experience, educating them at an early age. So Sophie gets to see the image, right? That's the right side of the brain functioning. And then she gets to compute that with the language that mommy is pouring into her. Baby, this is what that looks like. This is danger, right? So her little brain is saying, okay, if I see somebody that has these type of behaviors, they are dangerous. Just like you did with your baby girl, D, right? Like that is us choosing intentionally to be different than our parents. Mm-hmm. Our parents taught us, mira, ignóralo. Mira, deja esa persona quieta. No te preocupes de eso, right? And they don't educate us at all. Right. And part of that was a cultural response, right? So many of our parents, everything was about como tú te mira, you need to look good, right? Image was important. Okay. That was the culture back then. Who was
a lot of people.
My mom be like, when I travel a lot, tú vas al aeropuerto así, ma'am, sis, sweat. No, my mom se pone maquillaje, se pone to go to the bodega. I'm like, ma,
I was in labor with my first child. My wife had to go to the bathroom. Okay, she put me in the living room while she put on makeup and did her hair for like 20 minutes. Okay,
yeah, right.
And then told me, you going like that?
No, I swear. I'm like, ustedes ahora. I did want to say something that you just brought up, right? So it's funny. I've been very transparent. My dad has paranoid schizophrenia, and you know, I took years off. I took a year off years ago to kind of get him properly diagnosed, et cetera, et cetera. But it goes back again to you know what it is. Sometimes it's like, and I say this respectfully, it's like sometimes when you take an iPad to dinner because you just want to have adult conversation, but you're bringing your child. I'm not an iPad parent. That's just me by choice. I don't judge anybody who does it. I get it. But my my dad has paranoid schizophrenia, and Sophie, who's very observant, my dad laughs to himself a lot. Like, he has thoughts to himself. He's doing much better, but he'll chuckle to himself, right? So Sophie's probably 3.5, 4, and it's this like very sensitive, because he's her grandfather. He's a man, but she feels like his behavior is a little weird. You know what I mean? So it's this sensitive land of like, if you don't want to hug him, you don't have to hug him. You know, if Papa should ask you. So I had to have this conversation with my dad, with her, in front of her. But it's like, she was like, Mommy, but Papa's always laughing. And to her, it came off weird. So it's like, I say all this to say, it sometimes feels like constant work, like you're constantly like educating and using as a teaching moment. But I feel like it is constant work. You have to constantly be showing the differences. And also, of course, he's my dad. I don't want to ever think that he would do anything, whatever, but I want her to feel safe and go through that experience, but always me ojo abierto. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm also understanding a mental shift in my dad's head. You know what I mean? So it's like,
and also acknowledging
I don't like it. Yeah,
acknowledging that feeling.
Yes, and I'm like, women. I understand, Mommy. I understand. Mm-hmm. And yes, Papa, it's a little different. And if you don't feel comfortable, it's okay. It's okay to say, no, Papa, don't kiss me. Or if you want to let him kiss you on your forehead, that's okay. You know, but so young and it goes back to what Diana said. It's like, so young to observe already. I don't like that he laughs all the time. You know, like.
Or when we were growing up. We were forced to hug and kiss people we didn't fucking know.
Everybody, and you're like, I shouldn't have to.
No.
Yes. Right. And that's the perfect example of the shift in our culture, right? Because we're not only being intentional about educating our kids, but we're also giving them a choice. We are giving them a choice that for so long was taken away from us. And that's literally part of Becky with the gray hair. Right? For so long, I gave up explaining to people, yes, I'm Puerto Rican. Yes, full Puerto Rican. Yes, my mother's Puerto Rican. Like,
Diana. All I hear is Diana.
Listen, it's so exhausting, the amount of work that other people make you do because they don't do the work.
Right.
Ignorance is a real thing, you know. And I was ignorant for a very long time, and I will tell people, like, when somebody calls you ignorant, it's not a bad thing. It means that you lack knowledge. Now, do you want to remain ignorant, or do you want to do something different about it? Listen. But growing up, ignorant was fighting words. Who you calling ignorant? Hey, the freaking culture. We have to do the intentional shift of, do you know what ignorant means?
Right.
Ignorant means that you do not know this information. You lack knowledge. Do you want me to teach you? I can teach you. And you don't have to be ignorant anymore. And then you could go and teach others, right? And so standing in your power came out of that. Right? Like, I was like, damn, I'm just letting everybody just call me Becca, because it was so much work to let them know I'm Becky and I'm Puerto Rican, y yo hablo español, ¿verdad? Y la mamá, y todo esto, right? Like, it was,
so I can't. No. I can't let that one go, Diana. I couldn't. That was like a pinch. That was like a pinch. And I was like, whoa. Okay, continue.
Oh my God. You're really trying to be serious, y'all.
I'm sorry.
While I was doing my work with individuals, right, and everybody was so appreciative about how educated I was about my culture, right? Because Spanish, my first language, for so long, it posed so many different challenges. Right? It was a barrier. But let me tell you something. My Spanish, since then, has become my greatest asset. Right? Because I was able to bridge the cultural aspect the linguistic gaps that were existing in our community in the mental health field for leaders. I was like, if you don't go and stand in your power and own what you got inside of you, mira, muchacha. And muchachos, right? Because I speak to both of them. I love pouring into anyone that is willing to be trained. You have to be willing to be trained. And that means sitting with those uncomfortable conversations. I'm going to call you out on some of the stuff that's getting you in trouble, that's keeping you from growing, that's doing X, Y, and Z. But then I'm also going to give you the tools that you need to apply so that we can get you to that place. Right? And that created Becky with the gray hair. Like, I started noticing my hair was a little bit grayer. I started noticing my manchas. And then COVID hit. And listen, my hairdresser, I could just call her and be like, I need my dye. But I didn't want to do that. I was like, you know what? It's time to put.
You did it at a good time.
I did. I'm about to put
smart.
back in the box, right? So this is right when I was recognizing that people were over exhausting me, using my skills. I went to this job. I'm not even going to name the place. They started
name it. We love a good name. No.
Yes.
Name it.
They start name drop. All their clinicians and 45,000.
What is it?
Right, something like that. 45,000 a year. Right, all the clinicians. So I'm like, I busted my ass all this time. I got a whole bunch of loans. Okay, and then they're like, oh, do you speak Spanish? Right. Because Spanish is the money making field right now. Right? You speak Spanish, right? And I was like, oh, yeah. So you want my skill. You need my money.
My money.
They weren't clapping.
Oh, shit. They were like, no? What do you mean extra money for Spanish?
Yes, right?
Crazy.
And so, it just like, I was like, it seems like you need my skill, so I need to be compensated for my skill. Right? Yes. So Becca, they was like, okay, we're going to give you that extra 10,000 that you asked for because I go high. You want me. You need me. I go high. And so they was like, oh, in exchange for that, we're going to have to increase your productivity. So instead of seeing 20 clients per week, because I asked for the extra 15,000, they increased it to 23 because we're paying you more. And I said, you're paying me more because you need my Spanish speaking skill, right? How are you going to penalize me for speaking Spanish and increasing the productivity of the amount of clients I need to see? So, pero Becca was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. Then I got my client hours, I got my supervision hours, I got my license, right? Sign off, and I went and created my own private practice. And before I could even publish my private practice was open, I had a wait list. So I had to go resign.
Look at God.
Let me resign because I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be over there. And I remember COVID hit, and I said, I'm going to put my resignation. I was turning off everybody's fire. Guys, I was seeing 3 people an hour. I was just doing crisis work, a 20-minute visit.
Wow.
I'm bringing you those 3 clients in 1 hour. I'm bringing you almost $600, and you're telling me that you can only pay me $30 an hour?
Me voy. Me tengo que ir.
Mira, me lancé más rápido que ligero. I was like, what? No.
That's a really
You're
low
not going to
percentage.
take advantage. Yeah. You're not going to take advantage of me. So, as a transformational speaker, Rebecca reminds people, right, that Becky's here, presente, and I'm here to educate you about how to use your power to get what you want, right?
And deserve.
What you want, right? I want this because I deserve it. I want this because I've earned it. I have a master's degree. Pay me. Right? I have over a decade of experience. Pay me. But you don't have to settle. Right? It's about healing those parts of us that were taken advantage of, right? Because people took advantage of you. It's about empowerment. And it's about breaking free from those limiting beliefs that were transferred to you from a generation that wasn't educated.
You know what's crazy that there's so many like aha moments happening in this conversation, because it's very similar to, obviously my name is Rocio really, but when I started in my career, people used to fuck up my name. I worked with very, very, if any, I think I met 2 Latinos in my field, if that, right? So when I started working for Puff, ironically, he used to call me Rocio, Rocky. Like, the names were so fucked up. And one day he's like, I'm going to call you Rocks. And I was like, I was in between still being very young and being like sassy and blah, blah, blah. So he started calling me Rocks. And then Roxy was kind of born. And then I did a lot of work with Caucasian people or Jewish people. And they kept fucking up my name too. And similar to you, I was in a space where I was growing in my career and not ashamed, but it was like, it's just easier. And I was like, I started introducing myself as Roxy. And then it was like, I convinced myself that it went with my personality, because it does. It's very like, people are like, oh, like Roxy from Chicago, the Broadway show, blah, blah, blah. And it's like saucy, spicy, or whatever. But I think it was when I hit like 30, when I started to feel more confident in my career, that I said, fuck this. And at the time, I used to put my hair in a bun for interviews and meetings. I didn't wear a red lip. Like, I've talked about this before. I used to not wear hoops and wear studs and blah, blah, blah. And then I said, no, hell no. So I stopped that Roxy. I still use it sometimes now more for branding. And it's a fun story that Puff gave me that name or whatever. Well, not necessarily that fun right now. But I started transitioning to Rocio. And it's like, I say that to say, even in that little minimal change, it is like a rebranding. It is like a rebirth where you're like, nah, fuck that. I'm going to own it. I don't care if you don't know how to say my name. I don't care if you don't know what Puerto Rico is. I don't care if you don't know what Afro-Latina is. It's not my responsibility to educate you, because I always got, feminine always ends with an A, Rocia. I'm like, that's fine, but my name is not Rocia. My name is Rocio. You get what I'm saying? It's like, but it was this constant, I would spend more time, how do you say your name? And it's like, oh, it's just Roxy. And then I found myself people-pleasing or culturally appropriating, really. And I said, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. So I say that to say it's the smallest things that can change the trajectory or your path as to, this is it. Feel good. The littlest thing as, hi, I'm Becca, or hi, I'm Rebecca. You know what I'm saying? It's like, fuck that. So I'm so glad you shared that. It's small. People always have this perception that it has to be these big crescendo moments of like, oh, I'm pivoting, I'm changing, I'm transforming. No, it could be the smallest shit of you being like, you know what, actually, no.
Yeah.
The answer is,
and that smallest shit that you're talking about, you reclaim your identity. And when you reclaim your identity, your voice like magnifies un micrófono tan grande, because when people meet me, they like, Rebecca. I was like, yes.
But your name is like Rebecca Betancourt. That's like a novela.
Bitch. I swear. Because my head, you know what's happening in my head. I'm like, Rebecca doesn't know she's a brand. We need to get together off this call. You are, ma'am, you are a brand. Okay?
No, listen, I was having issues with people saying my name too. And my name is Diana. It's like, okay. Pero mi nombre es Diana, right? So people would be like, Diane. That's just easier for me. I don't give a fuck what's easier for you. Diane. And I don't respond. Yo, I'm talking to you. And they come over there. I was like, well, you said Diane. My name's Diana.
Right.
I'm already,
Get
I'm
it right.
already Americanizing it for you because a lot of
Yeah.
people say it's Diana, right? So when people say Diana, I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
That's how Alicia says Diana. Her mother calls her Diana, so I'd be like
Diana.
Diana too. But how I gotta learn Medikowski and Brakowski as your last
Exactly.
name, but you can't. I'm sorry.
Listen,
It's not my fault your name is Bob Medikowski. Get cultured. Sorry.
That's it. That's it. And you know what? And I took the time to let them know. Rebecca
Betancourt.
Right?
I love how you enunciate.
Betancourt.
Yeah.
It's like almost like it could be a dynasty. Rebecca Betancourt.
Listen,
And then you just walk away and shit. Like,
yes, I take it. You know, and some of us will be like, "Oh, wait, is that Italian? Is that French?" It is so Puerto Rican that you can see it on me.
right.
And oh, okay.
It's so funny that you brought up the Afro Latina aspect of it because I was going to ask you that. You know, because girl, I know you got in the same thing, and I've said it so many times on this podcast where people are like, "You need to prove to me that you're Puerto Rican." You don't even know how to talk Spanish. I had this guy. I was like, "Okay, I don't do this, pero te voy a hablar español para que tú sepas que yo soy." He was like, "Whoa, slow down. I don't understand that." Oh, but you want me to prove that I'm Puerto Rican?
Exactly.
But you don't even
Or
speak
talk to me in
Spanish.
Spanish. It sounds so romantic.
Yeah.
Mira, nena, cágate en la madre que te parió. That's romantic.
That's romantic.
Culo, pendeja.
Like that passive
I know.
aggressiveness, that
It's so
condescending
crazy.
type of behavior that people try to do, you know. And, you know, I remember this one story that when this lady shared this story, yo, me prendió un fuego that I was like, I wish somebody would, right? I wish somebody would. So she was at a writing conference, distinguished author, doctor, I mean everything. And she put on her bandana, she had on her plaid shirt, you know, she had on her shorts, and I think she had cowboy boots. I don't know. I don't know if that is part of the story or if it's part of my outfit for the Buffalo Bills. You know, I gotta give a shout out to the Buffalo Bills, you know, the Cowboys, you know, that. I got my cowboy boots.
I'm a Cowboys fan. So.
I know, I got my cowboy
we'll
boots
still be
for
friends.
the Buffalo Bills.
We'll still be friends.
Pero a man, tall, powerful man, when she was tossing away her food, has said a very sarcastic comment and said, "Oh, I didn't know we gotta be married." And she knew that he was being very passive aggressive. So she turned around and she's like, "Oh, we have a maid here." And he looked at her like, "I wasn't supposed to go that way. I was trying to show you my power." And she goes, "Oh, hi, I'm Doctora. Are you here for the whatever it is that they were there for?" And I was like, you know how many times I've experienced that type of passive aggressive behavior, that condescending behavior as a Latina woman? Like, when she shared that with me, I said, "Oh, you best believe I'm going to call out every one of them that come at me like that." And that was about a decade ago. And ever since then, oh yes, I'm going to check you. Don't try it with me. And I will do it with a smile because I am full of love. My husband is hilarious. My husband told me yesterday. He was like, when everyone was talking about you, I said, "That's my beautiful wife. She is gorgeous. She will tell you everything. But if you say something sideways, she gonna cut you up with her words, and you're gonna be like."
I always say that with words, I'll have you in a fetal position in the corner crying.
Listen.
And me on the text being like, "Go in, Z. Go in."
Yo, I was gonna say something about your Bills cup, but you like flexing it real hard, by the way.
Oh. I do want to get into. I love this conversation, but I do want to get into. I think it's important that we talk about the holidays and how essential therapy is all times of the year. But I know we touched upon this the last holiday season, but I just feel like, and I had this conversation this morning, how I feel like, I don't know if it's age, I don't know what it is, but or just the way the world is going, I feel like there's so much pressure around the holidays that it becomes unpleasant. You know what I'm saying? It becomes an uncomfortable, forcing feeling of if having to do these things, and then if you don't, you feel like, who am I, what do I have if I don't have community, if I don't blah 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 blah. So I definitely think I would love for you to touch upon like seasonal depression, the holiday season, especially not just Latinos, but I feel like getting together with family, especially culturally, where you don't address things, where it's like you don't talk about the elephant in the room, it's just so much weight. It's weight. And if you could dive into a little bit of that, and then as well as you said a key word earlier today where you're like, I'm also going to provide you tools, which I feel like I've had therapists that my last therapist, respectfully, I really enjoyed her, but I felt like it was becoming very girl chat, very girl talk. And thank God I have people like Diana or my girlfriends where I have those conversations already. You know what I'm saying? I have that banter and that feedback. But it's like, I think people are constantly looking for tools. Okay, for you, you had this rebirth from Becca to Becky and Rebecca or whatever. But that, it's like, if there are tools, what are tools? What are tangible things that people who are watching can walk away with and be like, and Diana mentioned it earlier, for you to share your, like, what are your go-tos for centering yourself, or for, you know, having that empathy? Because you also said something earlier about when you were doing your studies and you had to connect with your parents, and it's like, damn, it's about learning empathy about how they were raised, blah blah blah. And I love that, but then there's also the other side of like, you can become empathetic, but it doesn't heal you. It doesn't heal whatever traumas they've put on you. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm empathetic and I understand that your parents were limited, made you limited, but it doesn't heal me. You know what I mean? It's still this work that needs to be done. And I think what people feel is like, okay, it's like Kaylani said when we had her on the podcast. She's like, you go to all these things and then you leave and you're excited and you're like, okay, but what do I do now? Like, you know, like, what are some tangible things, or especially around the holidays? Because, you know, I thought, oh, having Sophie, the holidays, and then you're like, the first thing I want to do is be on a beach. Like, I don't want to be anywhere near like the pressure of the holidays. It's like, okay, well, we're gonna gather y que se sienta todo el mundo a comer arroz con gandules, y nada productivo y nadie habla. It's like, it's not.
Or the predators in the room, and you
That's
can't
what I'm
say
saying. Or that.
Yes.
You know?
I've known people that don't go to certain events because of that, right? So one of the biggest things that I share, not only with my clients, but with my students, because I'm also an adjunct professor at a community college.
Oh, I'm sorry, you just forgot to mention that. You said
yes.
I'm sorry, Professor.
multi hyphenate.
Yes.
It's a multi hyphenate. Yes. Okay, girl.
She just said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And my student, bitch. What was this?
Dale, mi amor.
Professor Betancourt. Yes. To make mistakes safe. Right? We don't make
Say
mistakes
that again?
safe.
Make mistakes safe.
Make mistakes
I like
safe.
that.
Right? We do not talk about that enough. Right? Somebody makes a mistake and we want to shame them. We want to bring that mistake down to the floor. Hasta que no puedas recoger la cara del piso porque mira, muchacha, ¿verdad? So one of the things that I've done is I created a culture where if we make mistakes safe, then we could set realistic expectations. So during the holidays, people will hold certain things over you. Ay, por ahí viene la que siempre está tarde, por ahí viene la que es que se le... Mira, si esta viene, go the other way, porque esta te va a traer el bochinche de la madre y esto y lo otro. And, you know, and it's like, wow, do you think that they've grown? Do you think that, maybe
it's also this thing of like, ella es así, déjala. And it's like, no.
Stop making excuses for people's behavior.
Stop making excuses. This is where we get to set boundaries, right? And so when we set boundaries, people be like, boundaries, right? A boundary is a rule that you set for yourself that tells people how they get to treat you. So people don't understand that, right? So when I'm setting my boundary, is because I'm letting you know how you get to talk to me, how you have access to me. And so if I set a realistic expectation of a boundary, if so-and-so comes, I am going to leave because I feel this person doesn't respect me. That's my boundary, and that's a realistic boundary. Right? And then if somebody else is going to want you there, they're going to be like, actually, can you not come because I need this person here? A boundary gives you your power back.
And it gives a portal for conversation. Like, how come you telling me I can't come? Well, exactly. You should know why you can't come.
Yeah.
Do you want me to?
They don't. They don't.
Yeah,
exactly.
Clueless.
They don't. And this is the thing about uncomfortable conversations, right? That uncomfortable conversations, I need to call out the behavior. So Billy. So this is my boy Billy that joins this today. I'm gonna rub it in.
Oh, yes. I didn't know we had props. I didn't know we was bringing props.
Vaya,
yo tengo montón de crap. Like if I go upstairs, I got my glasses, right, of how we see things differently. Listen, yo soy la queen de props, right? And so if I don't want Billy to come, right, because Billy says certain things that makes some of the girls uncomfortable, right? I'm gonna be like, hey, Billy, unfortunately, I'm not gonna invite you because some people have brought to my attention that you said X, Y, and Z. And when you say that, it makes them feel uncomfortable, right? And Billy's like, I wouldn't say that. Okay, I encourage you to have a conversation with that person,
but you can't come
because you can't come. Boundary conversation with Billy, addressing the topics that are uncomfortable, right? Everybody got their own truth. I encourage you to go have a conversation with X, Y, and Z so that the truth could come out, right? And so that is one of the things that I always tell people: get comfortable with the discomfort and the uncomfortable, because that is where everything really comes out. Right?
But let me ask you a realistic question, Rebecca, because that sounds really easy. I mean, that sounds really white. You get what I'm saying?
You bring a
knife. If I'm being fully transparent, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That sounds really like in a culture where boundaries is a word that is known, and not to minimize our intelligence, please, that's not what I'm saying. As a culture, as Latinos, as brown people, as black people, that's not what I'm saying. But culturally, to eliminate el tío from a gathering, pero porque tú vas a hacer así, pero eso no se hace, y la tía or whatever. So it's like, it sounds easy to be like, tío Juan, no puedo invitarte because la muchacha se siente You know what I'm saying? It's like, pero yo no he hecho, pero ¿qué pasa? And then it's the family bochinche. So, exactly. So avoidance steps in, and it's like, to avoid the problem, I'll bring the discomfort into the room. So it's like, it sounds easy. Like, it sounds like something that, I feel like this new generation using words boundaries and toxic and being able to have these conversations, but like, if you can, if there is a way, like, how do you coach or instill or provide the tools for someone to empower themselves to the point where they can have what can be a very uncomfortable conversation with someone who, as you said, isn't emotionally where you are, because that's what you're dealing with,
right?
developmentally, in your healing and in your growth and in your shadow work. Just because I'm doing all this work, which a lot of times shadow work is so private, and people are like, oh, tú has cambiado, oh, ¿quién tú eres? And it's like, you don't, the expectation is not for people to understand. Like, even with me and my mom, I've done a lot of work, it's private, and she's like, tú has cambiado, and it's like, I have. And it's like, so now I'm not only dealing with my change, but I'm dealing with now this pushback of like, fuck, is my change not good? But I feel good. So how do you initiate, or how do you stand in your power in conversations that could be really uncomfortable?
Really uncomfortable. And I think is the reminder of, what am I willing to tolerate?
Mm.
Because we tolerate the tío. We tolerate the tía. Pero if I don't have a conversation with you, somebody's going to have it explosively. Somebody's going to cut you. Somebody's going to beat your ass. Something is going to happen out of it, right? And I'm at a place developmentally where I use my words. I'm like, I don't have time to be physical. I don't have time to do that. I am going to use my words.
And call the police.
My husband tells me otherwise. He tells me, nah, you're still aggressive. And I was like, but yo no lo veo.
Wait, did you say your husband said, nah, you still aggressive? It be your own people.
Yeah, it be your own people. And I was like, I'm aggressive in a way that is safe, because I'm not going to jail.
Because I know, Rebecca, and I'm making an assumption, but I know in your family circle, you hear, porque tú eres terapista, tú te crees que tú sabes todo. O porque tú vas a ser doctora, tú te crees que, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's this weird thing as well. It's like, damn, I've worked so fucking hard, and it's now I'm being chastised or like, what is it, put in the corner for the work I've done, when really my intention is to better this space, better. I
know you're a therapist, so you come across people that are emotionally intelligent. Like us three, we are emotionally intelligent, right? And when you're in a partnership, or answer Rocio, because it's sort of like in the same vein. It's very hard to be emotionally intelligent and go into these spaces. You know what I'm saying? Because you're like trying to be as transparent as possible and have these boundaries. And I'm going to go back to one of the things that you said. Be mindful of what you gain, what you lose, and the boundaries will become much clearer.
Yes.
That's why we're always talking about taking stock of how you're feeling in that moment, taking stock of what you're putting out, what's coming back to you, taking stock of the people that are out, that are removing themselves, or that you're removing yourself from. You know what I'm saying? And how you're feeling in those. So then when you're going into these spaces, the holidays, right? There's always somebody that steals, somebody that that's done drugs in the past, so you don't know if they're doing drugs still, whatever. There's always a little predator. There's always that little creepy uncle or aunt that's like, ay, mija, tú estás gorda. Or, tú estás bien flaca. Like,
oh my
you know,
you never dress right. You never compliment. It's right. Like,
so it's good to have the conversation, but when you're dealing with people that are not emotionally intelligent, how do you navigate those things? Like,
exactly.
I don't even want to put my foot in that motherfucker.
Exactly. That's that boundary that you have to set, because I am not going to go that low when I'm already this high. Respectfully. Right?
So you try, but then, nah, I'm good if it doesn't.
Yes,
okay.
Yes,
okay.
Right? So, and I do want to circle back to what Rocio did mention, because some people might say that the way that I address Billy, or old Billy, little whitewashed training over here, right, could be a little bit whitewashed. Because for so long in our culture, right, the only way we were able to make a statement is by being loud.
Or violent.
Right? Or violent, right? So when we solve a problem with words, right, we connect it back to proper or whitewash, right? But in reality, it is so much healthy. And if I'm working on being healthy, I'm going to use my words. But if you want me to tap out and check in with Becky, y yo quiero que yo busque a Becky, espérate, que yo te voy a dar unas palabras, right? And I'm gonna give it to you that way. And you know what? I always give people an opportunity when I do talk to somebody and I use my words. And then when they don't get it, I was like, okay, so if you didn't get it the nice way, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of repetition. All right, you dirty. Ain't nobody want that up in here because it's just not healthy for none of us. So you need to take off.
And that's therapy approved, sis. That's therapy approved. Y'all listening? That's therapy. I tried one way.
You can walk away. You can walk away.
I'm telling you. Exactly. It's funny because I tell Sophie we're learning, she's learning. And I always bring her up as an example because it's true. I find it's true what they say. It's like through your kids, you see the world in different eyes. It's insane. Mm-hmm. But I always tell her, I'm like, Sophie, you need to understand the loudest person in the room doesn't get the most attention.
Right.
It's just not. You know, sometimes it's a distaste. Sometimes you leave a distaste and you don't have to be loud to get your message across. So I love that you pointed out because culturally, it's like I remember when Phil and I first started dating, he used to come to the holidays or to like a gathering and then he would disappear and I'd be like, where is he? And he would go upstairs for a little bit and he was like, I just need a reset because everybody's yelling. Everybody's yelling at the same time. And even though you guys all kind of know what's happening in every conversation, he's like, it's a lot. To me, is a lot. Yeah. So I feel that's what I'm saying to you, and I think Diana's asking the same thing. Is like tools, which it's great to know that it really comes down to that quote that Diana mentioned earlier. It's like, what are you going to gain and what are you going to lose? And it seems like a lot of work, but it is intentional work. And your hope is that with the consistency, which you started the podcast saying, with the consistency, people will start to be like, and it'll start like, viene Rocio, and then it'll be like, you know how Rocio is. Oh. Like blah blah blah. So it's gonna take that work, but if you're consistent with your mission, they'll know. Juan Pepe, Tío Pepe will know by year 2, 3. Either I'm gonna change, I'm gonna take accountability for what I did, or blah blah blah, or no me invitan. Exactly.
No me invitan.
So I want to go back to what you just said about the walk away because there's a lot of people, right? Because I've seen this and I've done it. And then it comes back like, oh, what? So what? Do all this. You want me to? Do you want to talk? Because I can tell you exactly what happened. I don't have a problem. Filtro no tengo ninguno, right? But the walk away. When you want to walk away from a situation, walk away from a relationship. Be clear about that, though, Becky, right? Because a lot of people do the walk away, but then they want to double dutch. They want to go back because but I feel I need this. But then they want to walk away again. Oh, but wait. Well, hold on. Then they come back. Because you can't do that to the other person either because then you don't know what's really going, you know what I'm saying? If you're really going to walk away and set your boundary, you got to do that. So like that person respects it. Because if you walk away and come back and forth, you're confusing the shit out of that person. Yeah. Wait a minute. Hold on. You gonna walk away or not? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you have to make sure that when you're setting whatever tools Becky's gonna tell you to do right now, you got to make sure that you stick to them. And of course, it's gonna be hard at first, especially when it's somebody you love and care for, right? But that consistency, because the respect that you're gonna get in return, the boundary that it's gonna feel so much better. It's just gonna feel so much better instead of doing that back and forth. That's why I call it double dutch. When you're about to jump in hold on, and you jump on you're having fun. Yeah. And then the rope hit your leg. You're like,
And I feel like you have to go into it knowing that at first you may feel alone. It may be a lonely space. It may be a very lonely space. It can be very long. Yeah, it can be very lonely to be like. Then you start to be like, is it me? Should I not? Like, is it okay? Like, should I just go with the flow? And it's like. It goes back to checking in with yourself constantly.
Very human.
Yeah, it's like it's okay. You will feel lonely and alone, but at the same time, it's like I don't want cousin X to suffer because every time she sees Theo W, it brings up all these feelings. You know what I'm saying? What happened?
You see them suffering,
and right.
They're
right.
sitting there
And then, of course, in our dynamic, I'm the only one who knows what happened because nobody else knows, or nobody else talks about it, or nobody else whatever. So it's like, that's where you have to, and it's these adult decisions. That's where you have to decide, you know what, this is more important to me than this. And those are very minimal, hard decisions that we have to make in life. And the hope is that if you're able to make that in such a personal space, let's say when you show up at work, you're like, boundary. Nah, you know?
That's it. And you know, I do want to circle back to one thing. So when I heard you talking about the walking away, right? I want to make sure we distinguish that was a relational thing, right? When we are in a relationship, we're walking away, right? But when we are in a holiday party, walking away plays a crucial step, right? In avoiding conflict, in starting conflict, right? So many fights start in holiday parties, right? And I need to let people know that it's perfectly okay if you don't go to a holiday party, because sometimes overcommitment creates those racing thoughts. I gotta go over here, I gotta go over there, I gotta go over there, I gotta go over there. But by the time you get to a place, ya tú pissed off.
Doing too much.
What's wrong with you? You're doing too much, right? Stop overcommitting yourself in the holidays to try to meet everyone's expectations. Let everybody know, yo, I'm only going to one house for Thanksgiving. I hope I get to see you there. If I don't get to see you, I hope I catch you for Christmas, right? Because sad is a real thing, right? Sad seasonal affect disorder, and it does happen the most during the fall to winter transition because we lose an hour of sleep, right? We fall ahead or fall back. No, we spring. Yeah, right?
Fall back.
Yeah, right? So we lose an hour.
Gets dark early.
So now it gets earlier. The sun ain't out, ¿verdad? So our bodies are not being fed naturally by the sun like before, like the summer. So sad is a real thing. And then if you got me committing to X, Y, and Z, Chacho, when do I have time for self-care? So
that's a whole nother conversation.
It's self-care. Oh, I will tell people, I'm sorry, I'm not available that day. I'm actually doing X, Y, and Z to take care of my body. I'm letting God pour into me. I'm talking to people that don't need me to pour into them because self-care is so important. It might be exercising. It might be, today I'm going to do a juicing and I'm cleansing myself, todo, me voy a limpiar de pies a cabeza, whatever it is. Make sure you practice self-care, right? So we talk about boundaries, setting realistic expectations, making mistakes safe, right? We talk all about that. And I think that we don't talk enough about the financial stress that happens in our culture. Oh my goodness. Un regalo para este, and then I gotta get their 3 kids, un regalo para este, and then I gotta get their 5 kids, un regalo para este. So now I have to buy 10,000 gifts, right? And then I gotta go and cook for them, and then I gotta look good and entertain everybody.
And then I gotta pay my bills.
Then I gotta be in debt.
It's like, don't do that to yourself for the holidays.
We do a grab bag.
Listen, grab bag.
Anybody that got a job, anybody that has a job. So all my nieces, nephews, everybody that got my sister, my siblings, we put all our names in a bag. And the only person that gets gifts from everybody is my mom. And the grab bag is $50 and the max is $100. That's it. Because it was stressful. I was getting tired of having to figure out what people wanted. And
we don't talk about that.
I get a gift card and I give a gift. Oh, this is so this is not even personal. You don't gotta get shit. Gift card.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, I love gift cards. You know what I'm saying? So anybody want to give me a gift card, July 3rd, Christmas, I will be accepting. But
that part, right? So I hope that people hear that. Like, oh, it's okay. I don't have to go to everything. Oh, it's okay, right? If you let everybody know, everybody's not getting a gift. We're gonna do a grab bag. I'm not going to everybody's holiday party. You send me an invite, and I'm gonna acknowledge it. Thanks for the invite. I'm not gonna be able to make it this weekend. I hope you guys have fun, right? Communication, right? And then the final thing is that we need to acknowledge the grief and the difficult emotions that show up during the holiday season. Right? Grief is like a wave, right? There'll be days that my grief is this big, the wave, and I'm like missing my father. And then there's days that my grief is on here and it's flat, right? Grief is forever. So let people sit with those difficult emotions that they need to deal with for the holidays before they even create a space to be with us.
You hate when people think that you have a time limit on some shit that you feeling. Like what the fuck? I've had conversations with people where some shit happened, and I'm not gonna make it too. I mean, if the shoe fit, well, y'all know who the fuck y'all are. I'm sorry, I got to drop the F-bomb, but you can't bring up some shit that caused me to have a feeling, right? But bring up something within that situation to make me see a point, but then I can't bring up what made me feel fucked up. Like, no,
Exactly.
the whole shit. We're bringing it up.
Exactly.
We're bringing it up from the deepest depths of the ocean. Like, and for people to be like, you still grieving? You died 15 years ago. Or
And
what?
Didn't you dirty like 7 years ago? You still feeling that? Yeah, I'm still feeling that. Yes, there's still distrust. Yes, we're still building that because it takes work. And that's my business if I want to take them back. Okay, I'm sorry, superhuman, that you are okay with whatever's popping off in your house. This is the way I'm feeling. And my feelings matter. You know how long it took for me to fucking say that?
Yeah, exactly. And those are the people that need the work.
Exactly, not me. Exactly.
Those are the people that need the work.
You want to open up your relationship? If you want to be okay with your man sleeping with X, Y, and Z, oh, you didn't know about it? My bad. My bad. You got an open relationship, sis. Since you want to worry about my grief and my 7 years or 20 years or whatever the hell it was. It's so crazy that people be so quick to have an opinion about your shit, but then when you give it back to them, okay, I'm a real giver. I give right back. I never let it pin. I get a
Me too. So, and then the last thing that I always remind people is stay connected, right? When you get that desire to want to disconnect, yes, your body is telling you, I'm exhausted, I need to relax my mind, right? So when Rocio was sharing your story about Phil, like, I need to go upstairs and disconnect, right? That's okay. Recharging is so important, right? Like, that's why we sleep. When we sleep, so into rapid eye movement, that's when they're moving back and forth. That's your brain healing itself, processing the entire day. So when you don't sleep, it's just you wake up, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or whatever it is, right? And so when people isolate, that's literally what they're doing. They are recharging their brain so that they can handle whatever it might be that they need to handle. Pero connection. Like, we need to stay connected. We are built to connect. Like, God created Adam, and He said it was not good for Adam to be alone. And hello, Eve, right? Like, we are meant to be in connection with somebody else. And when we disconnect, we do ourselves a disservice, right? So if you do disconnect, don't do it for so long that, I want to be alone. I don't want to deal with people. I don't want to do that. Right? Connection is what encourages us to be with our friends, right? Connection is what builds love. It builds trust. It builds confianza, right? We need all of this in life. So stay connected. When you notice that isolation is one thing that you desire, I will encourage you to seek professional help. Like, if you are desiring to be isolated, you don't want nobody's company, and it's lasting longer than 2 weeks, seek professional help.
And even and just in I could be giving misinformation, but one of the things that was key for, I know, my parents and my family when we first properly got my dad diagnosed was joining support groups. Like, I know everyone doesn't have friends that they feel like they can share intimate information or be so transparent with, sadly, but there are support groups of people. That's why AA exists. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that it's something that you have to be an alcoholic. That's not what I'm saying. But there are support groups for people who have seasonal depression. There are support groups for people who have lost and are grieving. There are support groups for people who have people with dementia in their family. There's support groups for people who have schizophrenics in their family, which my mom and dad, well, my mom partakes in for a little while, because it makes you feel less alone and it makes you feel less crazy. Honestly, it's like, oh damn, like other people feel this way, because you find that what happens is you're like, what's happening to me? Like, why do I feel? And then you start to self-deprecate. You're like, damn, something's wrong with me. Like, this isn't normal. I shouldn't share this and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes, like, in the Northeast or in places that gets colder, like 7-8 days of gray days is a lot of fucking gray, dude. Like, shit.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the benefits about groups, right, is validation, right? Sometimes we need to be validated that I'm not the only one going through this. Oh, you're going through this? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? Right? So I do that in family therapy. Like if I have an individual that I'm working with, I always offer them family therapy, and I create a space where they could come and talk about what they're going through. And it's a lot of validation, and it's a lot of interventions that I remind them, what are you doing for yourself? Because taking care of somebody that has a mental health condition is exhausting. So what are you doing for yourself? Yeah. And so we have to learn to say, this isn't working for me. Like, I love boundaries. And like, people will hear me say, did you set a boundary? Why the hell are you at this time? You want to go to them, set a boundary. Boundaries are so important. And I start a lot of my advice to my friends, right? Because you're doing that porque tú lo dejas, right? You need to set a boundary. Professionally, it looks different, right? It might look like, how might it look like if you were to set a boundary and you were to say to Billy, don't call me after 7. So who I am as a therapist and who I am as a friend and who I am as a mother looks different. But all of those parts make me who I am. They make Rebecca, they make Becky with the gray hair, and, I remind people, all I need is a little bit of willingness, a little bit of time, dedication, right? For anyone that's searching for their identity, right? Anybody that's like searching their professional, they're questioning their professionalism, their next steps or whatever, or someone is just feeling, the weight of balancing it all. Are you willing to just take a little bit of time to talk about it? Right? I'll tell you, join me on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Right? Because people do journaling, people do everything, and you discover so many things, but then you don't have those tools, right? That you guys talked about with Keanu, like, what do I do next? And Becky with the gray hair helps with that. I'm going to give you the tools to feel empowered. I'm going to give you the tools, and now I'm going to teach you how to use those, right?
And it's so funny, right? Because there's a lot of people that they see, like, let's say they're going through something, or I'm gonna use your example that you just said. They're feeling overwhelmed for whatever reason. Like maybe they have like 2 or 3 kids, right? And they're feeling overwhelmed, and baby daddy done walked out, and now they're a single mom, right? So if you are uncomfortable with the therapy, right, don't be. That could be something that it'll help you. But also, there's people in your circle that got 2 and 3 kids, and you see that, okay, they're doing pretty good. Talk to them. What are the things that you did? What works for you? What didn't work for you? You're not saying you're a bad mom if you're looking for information and seeking resources. You know what I'm saying? Like, it worked for you. I see that you're doing an amazing job. Your oldest daughter is not a stripper. Not to say that strippers aren't hard workers. We love strippers on this show. All I'm saying is,
we love strippers on this show. We love strippers on this show, but my daughter is not gonna be on no pole. Just saying, okay? We don't hate, we don't judge. But mine, she ain't gonna be on no pole.
I wouldn't want her to be.
I do a lot of reframing. That's what I'm saying. The professional entertainer.
Professional
Let's
entertainer.
reframe that.
There you go. But yeah, look for people within your circle, and don't be afraid to. And then if they're your people, it's okay. And you can ask a question. I mean, if you can ask a question about where you got that outfit, or oh, I like that. What's the recipe? What's the recipe to how you juggled these 3 children when you was like bringing them up by yourself? And it doesn't ask. You don't have to take the template, word for word, but apply some things that might work for you. And then if mentally you're still struggling, then maybe okay, I gotta go see somebody, because you never know. Like just talking to somebody that has professional teaching, and they do this on a regular basis, like you can see Becky, and I know you can feel the way she talks. Why wouldn't you want to talk to her?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I literally was like,
I don't know what I don't know what ring light she has. She's
like
fucking glowing. Like she's fucking glowing. Like
I swear. When I found out at the Boss Babes thing that Becky was a therapist, because I'm never on Facebook, whatever. I was like, oh my God, it's like when people find their calling, it's so perfect for her.
Are you taking
class? For that energy. I was gonna get to that because my next question is, as we wrap, tell us about.
You gonna ask her to be your therapist?
Bitch, facts. You already knew that was coming, and I get priority. But secondly, tell us about your practice and how it works. Are you taking new clients? Do you accept insurance? Is it virtual? Is it in person? Et cetera. Because people's next question is, and being someone who believes in therapy, it's so hard to find a therapist that can culturally connect. So for instance, I say culturally connect in the sense of like, you go to a therapist and traditionally it's like, you need to remove yourself from things that don't feed you, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, culturally, if you're having strife with your sister, let's say, it's like you don't disconnect from your sister. And a Latina therapist, an African-American, a Black therapist, someone who their culture, they've grown up in it, is the one who can give you the proper tools or advice, versus you got to disconnect. You got to cut them off. And it's like, you don't understand. Culturally, that's not what we do. I understand that we have to set boundaries and there's all these other things, but it's not, and it's not only what we do, it's not something that I'm comfortable with doing. So to find a Latina therapist is literally, and I don't even know the numbers off the top of my head, but it's like 1 in a zillion trillion. And then to find that's good, that's taking new clients, that there's all these things. So we want to be able for you to promote your business, but also because anyone that we have on the podcast, we heavily believe in. You know what I'm saying? And this conversation is evident of that. So tell us a little bit about your practice and how it works and how people can get more information.
Because it's a paid service.
Yes, thank you. So Meaningful Journeys with Rebecca is located at 433 Celestine Highway, 2nd floor, suite in Weathersfield. So I have been there for like consistently now for the last 3 years, but been there for the last 7 years. I provide hybrid, so I could do in person. I'm in person in the office on Mondays and Thursdays, and I provide telehealth on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And so my passion is I help people overcome barriers. Right? I help people find their trauma, do the work behind it. I heal attachment styles by doing the work, and I focus on personal growth.
Oh, can you dig in deeper on what attachment styles means?
Yes, I definitely could dig in deeper on attachment. So attachment styles, I cannot forget who did it, but it was coined by a psychiatrist a long time ago. And this psychiatrist spoke about how we are connected to other individuals, right? And so developmentally, we go through different learning styles. But the biggest one that everyone goes through is building trust, right? So when a baby cries, and mommy responds or papi responds, right? The baby is able to create a safe attachment style, right? Oh, yeah, bottle. Oh, okay, okay. Oh, diaper change. Oh, this is easy, right? And they take care of me, right? So a secure attachment style tells us that when I have a need, my caregiver is going to return it to me. And not everyone has that type of attachment style, but we could get there with the work. Right? And then we have the insecure type or the anxious attachment style. So we have secure and unsecure. But under unsecure, we have a number of subcategories, right? We have the anxiety induced, right? We
Is
have the
trauma, would
avoidance.
trauma bonding be under unsecure?
Oh, yeah. I consider trauma bonding as a disorganized type of attachment because I am connecting with you in all of the wrong ways. And I'm not going to get to that
Damn!
secure
I
place.
we could talk to you for like 7 hours.
Mm. So I educate people on attachment styles and I give them tangible examples, right? Especially when something is happening in my office, I say, that right there is how your attachment style is being affected. And then I break it down. So when this behavior shows up and you respond this way, her response or his response is directly connected to this type of attachment, right? Then I also educate on trauma. And so, we have two hemispheres, right? We have the right side hemisphere and we have the left side. The right side is the creative part, right? The right side is the one that takes everything. Oh, this is beautiful, right? The left side takes the logical information, the knowledge, the facts, the words, right? And so, however, when you are experiencing trauma, your left side, the one that takes all the facts and information, turns off. And your right side, you're responding off your right side only. And your right side turns on your trauma responses, turns it on. Woo! Am I ready to fight? Am I ready to flight? Am I ready to freeze? Right? And the brain only has one job. The brain's job is to protect this body and keep this body alive. So through the right side, that's supposed to be the creative side, now we done turned on the trauma side. So when you're talking to me, blah, 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 the right side is like, I need to feel safe. I need to feel safe. It's not listening to shit, right?
Yep.
So that person that wants to give a lecture could give them a touch, could give them a hug. I love you and you're safe. And when you do that, your left side starts turning on little by little. And now I can take in the knowledge that you're telling me because my trauma response is not on, right? All of these are all connected to each other. And so I'm going to share a quick story about my daughter. So my daughter, Morgan State University, Morgan State. So last year, almost around this time, right, they had an active shooter on campus. And I was having a FaceTime conversation with my Veronica, and I was like, how's your day going? We were going back and forth, and I hear the gunshots. So as a mother, I looked at my husband, I was like, is that what I heard? But as a mother, developmentally where I'm at, right, I know that anxiety is transferred from generation to generation, so I do not want to get anxious so that I don't get my daughter anxious. I do not want to turn off her logical side of the brain and respond, right? So it's like, Veronica, what's going on? Oh, mom, there's an active shooter on campus. My insides, my insides
Your
were
mom.
out.
Your mom.
Listen, mira, se me paran los pelos, right?
That's your
Because
mama bear.
she's 7 hours away, right? And my
Yeah.
husband heard it. He's already doing our overnight bag, right? Because we're already going back and forth since she started school, getting ready to go pick her up. And I'm like, baby, are you safe? I'm remaining calm. What do you need? Is your door locked? Do you feel safe? Nah, I'm safe. I'm on the top floor. The shooters are on the outside in the front. The doors are already locked. And I was like, okay, I'm going to call your dad. We're going to talk about our plan so that we will get you up here. Because you're not going to stay there, right? This is trauma. Right? And while they're going through it, they're in community with their peers. So they probably don't see it as trauma, right? And I'm going to come back to that, how it shows up. Fast forward. So hang up with her, crying, right? Because I didn't want her to see my fear. Pero my husband over there, packing his bag, doing the suitcase. I was like,
I'm packing the gap.
Yeah, that's why we
talk about that. Shoot,
you know we can't go.
That's how my guns sound.
We gotta go get her. Yeah, we gotta go get her. We gotta go get her. I'm calling her dad, right? My brain, I'm still crying. But now my logical side, right? My logical side was off, right? I need to flee my butt over there and rescue my daughter. So, and whoever or whatever gets in my way, I don't care. Right? So I had to calm myself down, right? So there's numerous techniques that I do to calm myself down. You know, a very popular one is EMDR, where I do some self-tapping, and I'm like, she told me she's safe. I'm gonna believe that she is safe and so forth. But my trauma response was still on. Eventually, we got Veronica back up here, and she is safe. Thank you, Jesus. However, sometimes people do not respond to trauma right away. Right? In her community, she's safe. A few months later, she struggled in school. And not to give her that education about, you know, Veronica, you went through a traumatic experience that you minimize, right? In our culture, we minimize trauma. Right?
Now it's showing up.
And it started showing up in her grades, right? So we need to be mindful of that, right? So that is one of the things that I always try to teach others about, that when I provide you therapy, I'm giving you psychoeducation as well, so that you understand why you're showing up the way that you are. I validate everything that you're going through. And then I'll ask you, so do you want to continue showing up? I like to give them their power back, right? And so that is literally how Becky with the gray hair came about, right? As I was transforming myself, removing Becca, the people pleaser, and, you know, reintroducing everyone to Becky, I started inviting people to stand in their power. So that transformational speaker aspect of myself said, I want to go beyond just one or two people. I want to serve the multitudes, right? You know, whether you're a young adult, whether you're trying to figure out your identity, whether you're switching jobs, whatever it is, I want to help you stand in your power by understanding why you're feeling the way you are, self-discovery, empowerment, whatever it is. I invite people, let's explore who you were before everything, or before you started showing up for everybody else except yourself. Who were you?
Thank you so much for sharing that story that's so intimate in such a, like, it's such a ABC of, like, how 1 minute to another that trauma can happen. Like, I have an ex-boyfriend who literally, he found his dad in bed, he had a heart attack, and he developed diabetes the next day. And it's like, people don't necessarily think about it, which I looked up, and I was like, we didn't even think there was a connection to it, but there was. And diabetes is one of the things that your body, like, responds in think it's helping you, but it's from the trauma, and there's stress, and there's stomach aches, and there's anxiety. That's why they're like, you know, when you're like, oh, my intuition, my stomach, sometimes it's diarrhea, sometimes it's whatever. But for you to share that intimate story, and then really kind of making people feel comfortable in the fact that, and I know Diana had shared a story on another episode about the gunshot, and the smell of blood, and all that stuff, that you were like, remember, Dee, that you were like, and the guys, you know, especially men, which ironically I got a text this morning from a male friend who was like, you know, Rosie, I want you to know that you're a great friend, and that I'm doing so much work on healing and really being more graceful with my masculinity. And he was like, it's a result of you and encouraging me. And it's like, and I've come to this awakening where I'm like, damn, this men's work is really important. And he literally said in the text, he's like, because I was one of those dudes that was like, whatever, this is BS, whatever. And he's like, now that I'm approaching the other side, it's like, this is so necessary. And I remember when Diana shared that story where it's like, none of the men that were around really dealt with and took note of, damn, what the fuck did I just see? You know what I'm saying? And now the smell of blood and the hesitation to leave the house or look around, those are all like effects of something that happened to you, but you don't deal with, you don't identify, and you don't process, and they stick with you in every environment, and then they stick with you when you become a parent as you get older. So it's like you said about anxiety, 100%. Like, anxiety is something that can be transferred. So it's being very thoughtful with, again, it feels like you're constantly doing work and be like, fuck, I'm fucking tired. But you know what? It is this thing called life that you need to be. I know for me, I shouldn't say you need to be. I have to be intentional with my interactions or with my responses, because it's like,
you gotta guard your
sanity. You don't know. You're meeting people where they are. You have no idea where they are. Some relationships you make peace with and you say, you know what? I'm meeting you where you are. I want to encourage you. I know you are not at your best self. I am here for you, but it's like that whole saying, you bring the horse to water, you can't force them to drink. You have to be able, in my opinion, to make peace with that and not take it on as your responsibility, because then what? It's like even with my ex-husband, it was like, and Diana knows this, and I've been semi-transparent. It's like, I cannot save you at the cost of killing myself. I cannot. And it took me a long time to get there. But it's like, it's like, trauma seems like such a strong word, but it could be anything. It could be the trauma of staying in a situation for months or years that with time, it's like, damn, this is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. It's almost like you let's say you live at home and you live with a special needs child and you don't really interact with people. At some point, you start to kind of developing these characteristics of this special needs child, because it's like you have no exposure to adult conversation or something else. So it is trauma. That can be trauma too. It's like trauma isn't necessarily it doesn't have to be a gunshot, a fight. It doesn't have to be something so aggressive. So again, it's just like,
trauma is different for everybody. Trauma
I can share with you guys and the audience a simple assessment tool that I use.
Amazing, please do.
That opens me to different discussions with you. And that question about, did you ever felt like you weren't good enough, is part of that assessment. Because as a child,
you about to make me cry.
listen. That is one of the biggest reasons why people show up in my office. Right? So currently in my office, I do not have any associates. So I usually have associates that I am training. So right now I do have a wait list. So I still encourage people to.
But the problem is, don't nobody want to see no associates. So I'm gonna have a sidebar conversation with you because I don't want to see it. See, this is the problem, and this is what I told Devontae at Diligence. You know what I'm saying? Shout out. I said I love everybody else, but I don't want nobody else to train me. So we got a problem.
Yes. So I am paneled with some insurance. So you could actually visit me on Instagram. Rebecca_meaningful journeys. So that'll bring you right to my professional page. And then you can see my transformational speaking engagement site at _Becky with the gray hair. Well, you can see everything about empowerment there. So those are two different ways that you can reach the two parts. So you can reach Rebecca or you can reach Becky with the gray hair. I do have a waiting list. Fridays is usually my consulting days, so I do have times blocked off for consulting. So I do share with people. I could give you 20 minutes for free. Pero my time is very valuable, and I'm on high demand. So
So,
there's
but
cost
a question.
associated with that.
So technicalities. Do you take insurance? How much are sessions? If and
Yes.
when someone wants to be put on a wait list and you get associates
Will they
on,
ever get in?
Yes. Yes.
but that's important to know too. There are some people who take insurance, and it does take a longer process. But do you take insurance? If you do, if you don't, and also if you offer people to pay per session, you can give a range. You don't have to necessarily say specifically.
Yes, definitely. So I do accept insurance. So I am paneled with Cigna. I'm paneled with everything Optum, United Health, Connecticut Care, all of those that fall under that.
Period.
And then I am also paneled with Connecticut Medicaid only, not
Okay.
Medicare, unfortunately. So Connecticut
You
Medicaid.
getting all the money.
You don't
Yes,
take Anthem.
yes.
You don't take Anthem Blue Shield.
I do not. Anthem is not
Shit.
provider friendly. And
Oh.
so, they don't really see our work. So, I work really hard to earn my degrees. I work really hard for my professional development. I love what I do, but I have to get paid to make a living and to provide
100%.
for my
So
family.
how much?
Right.
Right?
How much is a cash session?
So cash sessions can range from anywhere from, I see, $80. I'm trying to picture like the highest one. I think the highest one I've seen in some of my billing documents is $250. And so anywhere from 80 to 250, and that is from anything from a 30-minute visit all the way to a 75-minute visit.
Have you ever thought of doing like a therapist pop up? Or like
I never have.
like sort of kind of like what Milvet, shout out baby. Sort of kind of like what Milvet does, but
With her
then just have
massages?
but then have like therapists where you could pay, and that could work like 20 minutes.
It's almost like a tarot reading. Sit down.
Sit down.
Let me tell you about yourself. Also, I do would love for you to, and quickly, so we can wrap. Even though we can talk about this forever, I think it's important that people understand the confidentiality between therapist and client, because I know some people feel like, oh, she's from Hartford, she lives here, we probably know a lot of the same people, we probably went to the same school, blah blah blah, and so people don't necessarily feel comfortable in a space sharing, or I know, let's say for instance Milvet is your sister-in-law, you know what I'm saying. It's just like, I want people to know that therapy is something that's super private. There's a lot of legalities behind therapists and privacy, etc., etc.
So yeah, so everything that I do discuss with my clients is completely confidential. I've been in practice for almost a decade, and I have only had to give a referral out to one person because they were too close. Right? They knew somebody that was really close to me. Hartford is that big, right? But I also serve the entire Connecticut, so I get clients from everywhere. So, but confidentiality is a big thing. If I see you out there and you are my client, I do not initiate a hello. You have to initiate it. Like ethically, I have to respect that everything is confidential. I have the professional standards, ethics that I have to abide for, and I'm not going to risk that for anyone. So,
yeah,
okay.
I love that.
Well, you gotta get on the wait list. So
basically, I'm like, we're giving all this stuff, but there's a wait list. Oh, there
although
it is.
you got very excited at the beginning of this, and then more excited as we got to know her. It's a no.
And from the other side, right, from Becky with the gray hair, so consultations, they start at about $200 an hour. But I also have a curriculum for the Stand in Your Power movement that I bring to different businesses. I do it as professional development.
You don't got a wait
for
list
leaders.
for that though, right? Yes.
I don't have a wait list for that. I'm super flexible. And those packages vary from anything from 2,500 to 10,000. So
there you go.
There's different things for you.
So what if they sneak by Stand in Your Power and they'd be like, by the way, my husband I'm not giving anybody any ideas. I'm just saying, don't do that.
Well, they will, and I'll just remind them. I encourage you to tap
Get on the
into
wait list.
Rebecca underscore meaningful journeys.
We'll talk about. Becky's like, no, I'm gonna need my money to be over here, and this money
Yes.
gonna be over here.
Redirection.
Girl, getting all those buckets.
Redirection.
That's right. Hyphenated. And it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because they see you here and they're gonna see you in different spaces. Like I've seen you all over the place, and I'm just like, and then witness. Anyway. We love you, Becky.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, you created this platform. A la orden, I'm here, and don't forget to stand in your power.
So dope. You so dope. You dope, girl. Because we like to be.
Gracias for listening to Cositas Mommy Never Told Me. We hope you loved this episode. Make sure you subscribe, follow, and share Cositas Mommy Never Told Me on all your social channels. Todas las redes sociales. And don't forget, if you want in on the real tea and see all of our reactions to the craziness, watch this episode on YouTube. ¡Qué bochinche!